Welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Tyrone Squires, and I won't waste your time with a long introduction, but I think it's important that you know a little bit about me. I'm the founder and managing director of TransparentRx, the country's first fiduciary model pharmacy benefit management company. We're now a pharmacy benefit administrator. More about that here uh, uh, in a second. And by fiduciary, I mean that's the standard of care all of our clients get. We don't pick and choose. If it's not a fit, it's not a fit, and we move on. I'm also the founder of the American College of Benefit Specialists, where we've got the Certified Pharmacy Benefit Specialist designation, and we added three others this year, focusing on just training and education in pharmacy benefits. I've been in the industry now for over 2 decades. I started out with Eli Lilly as a pharmaceutical sales rep. I owned and did that for about 4 to 5 years. Owned a mail order pharmacy after I left Eli Lilly, licensed in all 50 states. Did that again for another 5 years. Frustrated with low reimbursements and just a tough business to survive in. And with the way the industry is eliminating seemingly independent pharmacies on a daily basis, it was the right decision because we decided to then pivot to a PBM and then compete with the PBMs we felt like um, were trying to put us out of business. That's a little bit about me. So let me just, because I don't want to keep you a full hour, and I could get on my soapbox and be here for 2 hours, but I don't want to do that. I want to dive right in today. And so you saw the title of your webinar on the screen. Let me start with this. The Consolidated Appropriations Act of the CAA of 2026, enacted this year, that doesn't go into effect until January 1st, 2029. Now's the time to start preparing for that. Not uh, as that deadline or that start date approaches, right? Now's the time. Within, and I'll talk more about that here in a bit, but within the Consolidated Appropriations Act of 2026 is a provision referred to as the innocent fiduciary. And this provision says this: relief is provided to plan fiduciaries who did not know that the PBM did not remit the required amounts, but only if the plan fiduciary reasonably believed that compliance would occur, and when they learned that it didn't, they took corrective action. Those required remittances are what you see on your screen. And there are others. In terms of hidden cash flows and those cash flows being eliminated, I'm not suggesting that if a PBM makes money from specialty drug spreads or manufacturer derived revenue, that in and of itself is wrong. It isn't. If the plan fiduciary knows exactly what it amounts to, and if it believes that it's too high, it corrects course. The problem today is that these revenue streams are hidden to the plan fiduciary. This is what CAA 2026, that goes effect now in less than 3 years, is trying to eradicate. It's trying to eradicate. And so, and I'll talk more about where the industry is headed in a bit, but I touched on manufacturer derived revenue. Today, everyone, smaller rebate aggregators, smaller PBMs, that don't own these rebate aggregator GPOs, Ascent, MSR, and Zinc, everyone now is being funneled through these big three GPOs to gain access to manufacturer revenue or refunds or rebates. And we know there's a dozen or more different names for these dollars from manufacturers that in the past, PBMs renamed in an effort to not be contractually obligated to remit those payments back to their plan fiduciary clients. There are consequences built into CAA 2026 for plan fiduciaries. And let me back up. The required remittances, right? When the PBM fails to do that, there's relief to plan fiduciaries who reasonably believe that compliance would occur. That reasonable belief isn't just you saying or your client saying, well, the PBM said that they would do this or that they wouldn't do this. No, that doesn't work anymore. You have to have a paper trail, documentation. That's what reasonable belief means going forward. There must be a paper trail and there must be documentation. So what you saw was the status quo. Here's the new path now. And let me just say this. There's so many PBM experts now. With just spending 30 seconds on a prompt now, and everyone is an expert. So they believe. I saw something on LinkedIn. It said that with CAA 2026 and the mandate for transparency and fiduciary standard of care in some states, no longer is the prescription drugs the product. No longer, is the cost management or the oversight of pharmacy benefits the product. The product is the service that the PBMs offer. Nothing could be further from the truth. The only way someone would say that is if they've never been an operator of a PBM. The new path says this: the PBM makes money just one way now. So instead of no admin fee or an admin fee that's artificially too low, now the admin fee reflects the value of the pharmacy benefit, either management or administrator offering. Instead of it being artificially too low and then augmenting it in all those different ways on that slide that I just shared with you on how non-fiduciary PBMs make money today. And then all those hidden cash flows go away. And so the challenge going forward, and let's just assume that, and we see all the PBMs making changes today. All the big PBMs have made announcements about transparency, cost plus models. We're foregoing all the rebates now. We're passing all of that back. Well, if that's the case, the only way that now you can make shareholders happy is by charging a higher admin fee. That fee, the base fee, is going to start at probably $10. And then it's going to go up from there depending on the services offered and what's not included in that base fee. So don't be surprised if you're starting to see now PBMs offering, and if they're radically transparent and or truly fiduciary, having the total admin fee exceed $50 per member per month, because that's what they're making today already. I'm going to show you in a bit what our admin fee is, and then you use that as a baseline. So going forward for plan fiduciaries, now you've got CAA 2026, and you've got consequences now, real consequences for plan fiduciaries that allow PBMs to charge too much. And so in order to be able to document your reasonable belief or your client's reasonable belief, what do you have to have? Control. You have to have control. Historically, PBMs have had the control, and what did they do with it? Took financial advantage of their clients with that control. The PBM model inherently is complex. It inherently takes control from the entities that fund the pharmacy benefit and provides it to the entities that just simply manage it. And here's the difference between the two models. And so I'm just going to tell you, I just had an epiphany. I've always tried to run my business to do more than the minimum. I live my life that way. I ask that of our team. Do more than the minimum. Do more than the least that is being asked of you. What's the point of getting out of bed every day if you don't challenge yourself? And so I had an epiphany one day, and it dawned on me that there was more that we could do by simply moving on from the PBM model, even though we were fiduciary, and making an administrator and give power and control back to our clients. And that's what this model does. You talk about CAA and compliance, and now there's real teeth in the consequences to plan fiduciaries. If I'm a plan fiduciary, if I'm going down, I'm going down my way. Oh, Tyrone, this is this is over 20 years old, Tyrone. Why are you bringing this? Why are you bringing up Caterpillar? Caterpillar did something 20 years ago that many of their contemporaries have yet to do. 2 decades ago, they did this. They took control. They rejected the PBM playbook even before specialty drugs were a classification. They decided we want a cost plus model. We're going to build our own network. We're going to manage our own formulary. And when they did that, they eliminated waste and lowered costs for at least 5 consecutive years after they switched and brought pharmacy benefit management in-house. They hired staff to oversee the program. And for them, it was a training ground. Little did they know, or anyone for that matter, know that specialty drugs are going to hit like a tidal wave and almost overnight become half the spend in the pharmacy benefit. With very few utilizers. 2%, half the cost. I'm saying this not suggesting that every employer go as far as Caterpillar did. It's not the fit for every entity. I'm sharing this to suggest that there's more you can do in terms of taking control. CA 2026. And listen, I'm talking about it as much as I can because not enough people are. The very first step, the very first thing HR and CFOs and brokers and PBM consultants should be doing right now is pulling every PBM contract. Pulling every PBM contract and reviewing those contracts for compliance. And a big part of that is going to be the audit language. The only way that you can be assured that you minimize risk for your company and your clients in reviewing these contracts is through education. I've got experience, but I've had a lot of training, and I'm certified in pharmacy benefits management. My review of a contract is going to be better than 99.9% of the people on this planet, including lawyers. Not because I'm any smarter, it's because I've had formal training and education in pharmacy benefits management. Reporting, access to data in terms of being compliant for CAA 2026 is a key aspect. It's critical. And I talked earlier about that post on LinkedIn, and the service becomes the product because essentially there's going to be parity in what people pay. That's not true. You know why? Because of clinical management. It is complex to build and engineer a claims engine. It is complex to build that engine. But once you build it and you test it and you have the maintenance on it, it becomes the least complicated part. The claims processing becomes the less complicated part about the pharmacy benefit. The most complicated part is the clinical part. It's the clinical piece. When we talk about the cost drivers within pharmacy benefits, you see the 4 primary cost drivers on your screen. We've talked about rebates, and rebates are a component of price, right? It helps bring down the price. Price and cost are different, but the 2 aspects that don't get enough credit and attention for eliminating waste and managing costs and helping people get better are the 2 in the middle of the screen. And those 2 are utilization management and product mix. These are clinical. This is the results are clinical. The results are driven by clinical programs, clinical rigor. So Product mix, what percent of drugs being dispensed are generic? What percent of drugs being dispensed are specialty drugs? Utilization, what are the days supply that are being dispensed? What percent of claims are flowing through specialty pharmacies? And this is utilization, this is product mix. Formulary adherence, what percent of drugs being dispensed are non-formulary drugs? This is utilization. So these are critical aspects of cost management and cost drivers. One example, I talked about that LinkedIn post again. It just irks me. I keep bringing it up. Forgive me. There's going to be parity in pricing now, so service becomes the product. Hogwash. There are PBMs that rubber stamp the PA process. And then there are other PBMs that use it as a tool to scrutinize specific claims, not to make life difficult for members or HR. And you've heard this, but it's true. You're probably tired of hearing it, but it's true. The right patient, the right drug at the right time. And so in our PA process, we go through all four of these steps. And so I'm sharing this with you so that you can bring this back and measure it against your own PA process, because I can tell you that depending on the client, our range is 45 to 55% PA approval rates. Not 80, not 90. Because we don't circumvent what our P&T committee has done in creating this balanced, value-based formulary. It's almost as if a P&T, Pharmacy and Therapeutics committees made up of physicians and pharmacists and health researchers that go through these drug monograms and determine, based on cost benefit, what drugs belong on the formulary and what drugs don't. The job now of the clinical pharmacists and the pharmacy technicians and member support is to not circumvent all that work that was done by the P&T committee. But there's always exceptions. So for us, if, for example, a brand drug is presented and it's not on our formulary, it's going to be denied with a therapeutic alternative that is on the formulary being recommended. There is an exception for medical necessity when we don't have a therapeutic alternative. But our pharmacists and our technicians and our member support, we track overrides. They can't issue overrides because they're getting screamed at by a member. Specialty dispensing rate. This is a clinical metric. Drug manufacturers and PBMs that own specialty pharmacies know that by having a relatively high prior authorization approval rate, that by going from a 2% specialty dispensing rate to a 4% specialty dispensing rate increases revenue by $9 million. It doesn't happen overnight. 3, 4, 5 years out. But they can count on that increase each year to get to that $9 million increase. Special dispensing rate, uh, and again, this is based on the average 28-day supply costing $8,500 on a $10 million spend. Special dispensing rate is just what percent of all drugs being dispensed are specialty drugs. Generic dispensing rate, it is it's the first metric we go to when we're analyzing, competing in an RFP. It's the first metric we go to because we know where our formulary and our utilization management programs, we know what GDR they're going to drive. We know what the results are going to be. But what most plan fiduciaries don't realize is for every claim where you can have a generic dispense versus whether it's a generic equivalent, a generic alternative, you save $1,000 every time, minimum. It's massive savings. So for every 1% increase in generic dispensing rate, the plan is going to save anywhere from 3.5 to 5% from gross cost. So if the GDR is 80%, you believe that you can get it to 90%, which is consistent with what CMS delivers, then you're talking about possibly a reduction in cost of 40 to 50%. The PBMs that own specialty pharmacies don't want to talk about that because that means that there's going to be a reduction in their revenue of what? 40 to 50%. GLP-1s, I don't know how much longer we can keep them off the formulary, especially now with Eli Lilly probably maybe at the end of this year, early next year, launching a triple agonist GLP-1 with staggering weight loss and some other comorbidities that it addresses, that we can keep them off the formulary. I don't know if, Zepbound or this new GLP-1 will be able to get away with requiring that they be diagnosed with type 2 diabetes before they get access. What I do know is that the cost skyrockets quickly. CVS just dropped GLP-1s for their own employees, independents. They were covered, now they're not. I think starting in July. That in and of itself tells you how rapidly these costs can escalate. So for us, or what we recommend is, diagnosed with type 2 diabetes to get access to these products and step therapy as well. All right. Now, just wrapping up on the cost management. Stay with me. I'm doing pretty good here on time. We did an analysis for one of our clients recently and moving medical benefit drug claims to the pharmacy benefit, identifying which drugs were the best fit for that. And it wasn't a big client, but nonetheless, we thought the number was going to be bigger than it was. But my conversation to them was cost management and pharmacy benefits requires multiple tactics. Multiple tactics. You have to stack them. And combined, the aggregate is significant. But individually, maybe not so much. So you have to look at the aggregate effort instead of the isolated effort. And you have to stack them. And it all starts with the formulary and the utilization management programs. And so for us, for a specialty drug, the first stop in terms of the channel, and remember, the channel is a part of utilization. We're looking for foundational assistance programs. If nothing's available, we're going international. If nothing's available international, we're going 340B. If there's no option there, we're looking to move that drug from, say, outpatient, maybe to white bagging, and we're looking to procure that drug at a lower cost. Each step of the way, there's a fight against an organization that wants to keep that drug under their control. There that word is again, control. The entities want to have the control because they want to control the drug. When they control the drug, they can charge more than the plan fiduciary may pay otherwise if they had control. One quick pro tip. If you're carving out and say maybe the international mail doesn't flow through the plan, and where your accumulators are tracked, and you can do the concurrent drug utilization reviews on the spot, then you need to add a medication therapy management program where once a quarter and also potentially once a year. So you got maybe 4 telemedicine meetings with a physician, with that patient. They're synchronizing meds, checking for interactions. So, when you carve out, you don't have that luxury if it's not flowing through the plan, through the normal adjudication process. Then you need to stack on some sort of care program that takes care of the patient. All right, and just again, if a plan gives us, Tyrone, we don't want the service and our members to be unhappy. We're okay if overall the service levels that you provide are satisfactory. When we do surveys, overall the service is satisfactory. We know that the way that we oversee the pharmacy benefit, listen, coming from as a drug sales rep, I was pretty good at it. And all I did was go to the doc and say, hey, doc, why don't you the rest of the week prescribe my branded Actos? And I know it costs $400 or $500 a month for the 30, 45 million. I know that. And I know metformin, which is generic, costs $25 a month. But just do it for me. And maybe we can go and grab a steak, or I can pay you $1,000 to be a speaker, at a nice steakhouse next quarter. Would you do that? And they would do it. Because I was bringing samples and probably a bit of a pest and stopping in every week and bringing them lunch and their staff lunch, and they would do it. I also know the games that pharmaceutical manufacturers play when they mark up a capsule versus a tablet 30 times more than the tablet for no other reason than no one's watching. There's no clinical reason. Same size, tablets not that much bigger. It's not hard to swallow, but just because they could. And so if a client says, Tyrone, hey, listen, we want to get cost in line. We want to eliminate waste. We don't want any fraud. We don't want any abuse. We don't want to overpay, but we don't want our people to start leaving and complaining and HR being bombarded with calls because you're not giving access to the drug that the physician prescribed. Just make it satisfactory. We know there's some people that are going to be unhappy. We know it's not perfect. We just want an overall satisfactory experience. Not great, not poor, just satisfactory. This is what I'm going to do for you. You give me the green light, I'm going to do this for you. I'm going to cut your cost by half. Any PBM, well, I shouldn't say that. They have the tools. Every PBM has the tools to do this. The question is, are they operating to benefit in the best interest of their clients first? And the other point I want to point out, again, I'm going back to the example. There will be parity in pricing. There will not be parity in cost. CAA and the attention and all the legislation and the federal, state level, it will create parity in pricing, but it will not create parity in cost. And normally I preface my comments, I'll say, generally speaking, I'll cushion a little bit. I won't push all my chips to the middle. Right now, I'm pushing all the chips in the middle, and I'm saying there will be parity in pricing, but there will not be parity in cost. I got to write a blog about that. I got to get that quoted in Bloomberg or something. Parity in pricing, but not parity in cost. I promised you a baseline of what a reasonable management fee, service fee, earnings after cash disbursement looks like. Assuming the PBM isn't making money any other way. This is what you should expect to pay at a minimum. At a minimum, this is what you should expect to pay. Today's webinar was worth just this one slide. Just this one slide was worth your time today. All right, that's my time today. I'm going to stick around just in case any questions come through. Yeah, if we're not connected on LinkedIn, expect for us to reach out and make that connection. Hope you have a fantastic rest of your week. I'll stick around for a few minutes.